Hello everyone, my name's Dave Tonge, sometimes called the Yarnsmith of Norwich, and I'm a storyteller. And welcome to Leigh Folk Festival presents the Front Room Folk Festival. Now as you can see, I'm standing in my own front room, but I actually live in a very ancient cottage and it's a little bit dark in here. I'm stuck in my cottage in the wilds of Norfolk. So what I'm going to do, I hope you don't mind, I've introduced you to my front room, but now we're going to go outside into my garden. Now, as a storyteller, I often say that I travel a land telling my tales. I wander the road bringing wonder wherever I go. Although at the minute, of course, like most of us, I can't wander. I'm stuck at home. Instead, I wander my garden talking to myself. So it's a real honour to tell you some stories today. And I thought I'd start with something thoughtful. Now, as you see, I am lucky enough to have a garden. I've also got a small veg patch, and since I was small, my dad used to have me growing things, be it peas, beans, carrots, and radishes. And I soon discovered that radishes, carrots, other crops, they always taste so much better when they are freshly plucked from the ground, still with a little bit of soil upon them. But know this, there was once a king whose land it was racked by lies and deceit. He's not so noble men, his cruel courtiers, they played him false, only out for what they could get. Well, the king, he'd been raised to rule, to deal with the not so noble men, to rise up on the backs of the common sort, the likes of you and me. But all his life he had dreamt of a life less ordered, away from the pomp and circumstance of state. For know that his land was troubled by war, and this troubled him greatly. War within his realm about who had rights to this land, to these estates. War with other realms about which religion was a right religion. His land was troubled by war, and this troubled him greatly. It brought him low, so that he ate little, he slept less. And so the finest doctors were paid to attend him. But all they did was stare at his urine held in glass vessels, going, ooh and ah, and charging lots of coin for the privilege. Whilst others, they would nick a vein in his arm and let blood drip, drip, drip into a bowl held beneath for the purpose. The so-called service of these so-called servants only served to make the king sicker still. His only respite, his only freedom came when he rode out on the hunt. Now, it wasn't the slaughter of innocent animals, you understand. He'd seen enough death done in his name. It was simply that for a while at least he was free from those not so noble men. Although the knowledge that he would always have to return to the stink of the city, the court that was fouler still, it lay heavy upon him. Until one day, while out hunting, his horse threw a shoe. He was left alone on the edge of a wood. Not knowing where he was, which way he should go, he led his horse across the field to the house, the poor cottage of a poor farmer, a husbandman. Know that his and his family's way of life was very different to the king's. He grew only that which he needed to survive. He grew peas, he grew beans, he grew onions, he grew radishes. Any surplus he had at the end of a few months he would take to market, he would sell. And with the coin he made, he would buy wool to make his family's clothes. He would buy grain to make bread and ale. Whatever else the family needed, well, they took from a nearby wood, be it wood for the fire, be it meat for their bellies. Theirs was a plain and simple life. And in the short time the king spent with them, he felt a peace come upon him, the like of which he had never felt before. And so he asked the family if he might join them for a while, so that he too might know the plain and simple happiness of a plain and simple life. The farmer and his family agreed, for an extra pair of hands was always needed upon the land. And so it was the king. He swapped his fair and fine and fancy fur-lined gown for plain and simple homespun garb. He rose early and helped the farmer plough the fields. He rose early and helped the wife hoe the fields. He rose early and helped the children pick stones and scare crows from the fields. He tended the fire. He mended his own plain and simple clothes. And when the day's work was done, he would sit with the farmer beneath the low eaves of the plain and simple cottage, taking in the wonders of the world, looking from forest to field to gently flowing stream. And when darkness fell, he would sit with the family in their plain and simple cottage, enjoying a plain and simple feast. It was what they called a mean feast long ago, a small feast, but such large flavours. The king had never tasted such flavour. He had a particular fondness for radishes because this year he had grown them himself. As anyone will tell you who has ever grown a radish, it always tastes so much better when fresh from the earth, still with the soil upon it. Time passed. A year passed. The king, his body, his heart ached from all the hard work, from all the harsh stories that the farmer told him about how a poor harvest could blight a poor family's life. Yet still he felt more happy, more healthy than he'd ever felt before. Alas, his realm was neither happy nor healthy, for since the king's disappearance, the nuts and noble men had fallen into war with each other about who should become the next king. And so, with a heavy heart, the king thanked the poor family for their many kindnesses. He mounted his horse and he rode back to the stink of the city, the court that was fouler still. Once more he took the reins of government, and he forgot all about the plain and simple happiness of a plain and simple life. Time passed. A year passed. The poor farmer missed his friend, the king. And so it was his wife counselled him that he should go and see the king in his palace, and he should take a great bunch of radish roots with him, to remind the king of the good cheer he enjoyed when he called their small house his home. In truth, the farmer thought his wife was mad. Why would the king want radishes now he was back living a life of luxury and lies? But he was wise enough to know that his wife was much wiser still, and that she would have her way. And so it was, with a great bunch of radishes in his hands, he set off to the stink of the city, the court that was fouler still. He walked for many days, and of course he grew hungry. He ate all but one of the radishes. One left. When at last he arrived at the stink of the city, the court that was fouler still, he was forced to join a great crowd of the common sort, the likes of you and me, waiting to see the king as he passed by. And there, late in the day, was the king, riding upon a great charger, a great horse, staring blankly out over the crowds, desperately trying to remember something that he had forgot. But he could not, until he saw the farmer. It jogged a memory in his heart. He ordered that the man be brought before him. And so picture, if you will, the king sitting upon a great throne in one of his great halls. Behind him all of those nuts and noble men, all laughing, all mocking the poor farmer in his plain and simple attire. Now they jostled and jested with each other as he offered the king a gift wrapped in plain and simple cloth. The king, however, did not laugh, for when he pulled back that cloth, he saw a radish. It brought joy to his heart. He remembered how he had risen early, how he had tended the fire, how he had mended his own plain and simple clothes. He remembered how he would sit beneath the low eaves of the mean cottage with the farmer, taking in the wonders of the world, looking from forest to field to gently flowing stream. He remembered how, when darkness fell, he would sit with the farmer and his family, enjoying such flavours. He remembered how much he loved radishes. Such was the joy that radish brought the king that day, he ordered that his servants take it and put it in his strong room, there to sit amongst his finest jewels. So too he ordered that they fetch 100 gold coins, a gift, a reward, if you will, for the farmer, but also to help see him through those hard times when a poor harvest could blight a poor family's life. But the nuts and noble men, the cruel courtiers, were watching. They couldn't believe their eyes. The king gave that poor man 100 gold coins for one old radish. But there was one amongst them who was called a pickthank, a flatterer of kings. He saw opportunity in everything. And so he thought to himself, well, if the king gave that poor man 100 gold coins for one radish, what would he give me for my finest white charger and my best horse? And so he sent his best horse to the king. The king was very pleased, for it was indeed a fair and fine beast. But now he thought to himself, for such a wonderful animal, I must give the nobleman an equally wonderful reward. But what? A few days later, everyone was summoned back to the king's great hall. There stood the cruel courtiers and not so noble noblemen. On one side was the poor farmer, on the other was the pick-thank, the not so noble, noblest, not so noble nobleman of all, if you get me drift. He fair shook as the king offered him a small box that was beautifully carved, that was intricate in design. He stroked the lid backwards and forwards, thinking of all the fine jewels within, saying, my box, not your box, my box, all mine. Slowly he began to lift the lid. Now at this point I'm going to let you all into a little secret. Although I've been telling stories for many years, I've never perfected the art of the creaky lid. You all know what you must do after 3. 1, 2, 3. I say I'm going to have to give you a hand. That's it, keep going. Small box, big lid. It's a very big lid. The lid creaked open. The Lord looked down, and as he did, the smile dropped from his face as water falls from a duck's back. For inside that beautifully carved box, intricate in design, was a plain and simple radish. For it was a gift worth 100 gold coins, but a gift far more valuable still to all those who knew the pleasure and the pain of a plain and simple life. I hope you enjoyed that story. That was a thoughtful one, but you know what? I think we've got time for a silly one instead as well. Instead, not instead, as well. You can tell I'm a storyteller. I trip over my words all the time. Picture, if you will, a great cartwheel. Picture people clinging to that wheel, and behind it a tall, willowy woman wearing a blindfold who turns it. And they used to say in medieval times, when that image was popular, that we all rode upon Dame Fortune's wheel. Sometimes as the wheel turned we would rise, meaning that we were enjoying good luck. But the wheel dictates for some of us to rise, others must be falling. They must be enduring bad luck. So it was, and perhaps so it still is, because it feels so many of us at the minute, I'm sure, that we are falling upon Dame Fortune's wheel. But of course, as the wheel continues to turn, many of us will rise again. Except there was once a boy called Jack, and Jack was perpetually at the bottom of Dame Fortune's wheel. He had no luck. Whenever he ploughed his field, the plough would strike a rock and break. Whenever he sowed his fields with seed, the crows would swoop down and steal most of it. Whenever he cut his crops with a sharp sickle, he would cut his hand. Whenever he tried to speak to a young woman and say, "Hi, my name's Jack," it would always come out as blah, 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 blah. He had no luck. Well, Jack went to see his friends in the alehouse to ask their advice. He said, friends of mine, why don't I have any luck?" Now, Jack's friends were wise enough to know they were not that wise at all. They said, "It's no good asking us, Jack. If you want to know the answer to that, you're going to have to ask the wisest man in the whole of England." No, my friends, that then as now there were lots of wise women, but there was only one wise man, and his name was Friar Bacon. Not fried bacon, Friar Bacon, a man who was said to be so wise and so clever that if you stood next to him and you listened, if you cocked your ear, you could hear his skull creak and groan as it worked hard to keep all of that wisdom inside. Jack decided he would go and see wise Friar Bacon. He packed his pack with bread and cheese, a great flask of ale, and he set off into the woods. He walked and he walked and he walked and he walked until finally he met with a great big wolf. An ugly beast it was, with long sharp fangs, bright fierce eyes. Yet it was a skinny wolf, and its fur was falling out. And because me story set long, long ago, the wolf could speak. And it said, "Hello, boy, where are you going?" And Jack says, "I'm on my way to see Wise Friar Bacon to ask him why I don't have any luck." "Oh," said the wolf, "oh," says he, "if you're going to see a wise man, ask him something from me. Ask him why I'm so skinny. Ask him why my fur is falling out." And Jack said he would. And so he continued walking through the woods until he came to a great clearing. And in the middle of the clearing was a tall oak tree, much taller than all the other trees of the woodland. Yet whilst they all showed the green leaves of summer, the oak tree, its leaves had turned brown, they were falling to the ground. And because my story set long, long ago, the oak tree could speak. And he said, "Hello, my friend," for he was a very genial oak. He said, "Where are you going?" And Jack says, "I'm on my way to see Wise Friar Bacon to ask him why I don't have any luck." And the tree said, "Oh, my friend, if you're going to see a wise man, please ask him something from me. Ask him why my leaves have turned brown, why they fall to the ground in summer." And Jack said he would. He continued walking through the woods until eventually he came to the other side. He was looking over a beautiful valley. There was a silver stream running fast, cool and clear, silver fish leaping in and out of the water. Next to the stream was a field. In the field was a cow with great globbets of cream hanging from its udders. Well, like many of us, Jack loved cream. He went to the small cottage, a pretty cottage, roses round the door, thatched roof, the works that stood next to the field. He knocked hard upon the door. Why he didn't just knock properly, I've no idea. And the door was opened, just a bit, by a beautiful young woman. She was lovely, and yet she had a sad look in the corner of her eye, just like that one there. And she said, "Why have you come to me?" And Jack says, "I'm on my way to see Wise Friar Bacon to ask him why I don't have any luck." And the young woman said, "Oh, Jack, if you're going to see a wise man, ask him something from me. Ask him why, when I have all of this beautiful valley to myself, why then do I feel so sad?" And Jack said he would. And Jack continued on his way. He walked and he walked and he walked until finally he came to a priory. A place, or I should say a friary really, if I'm being technically correct. A place where friars lived. It was the place where old Friar Bacon lived. And by now his head was so full of knowledge, so full of wit and wisdom, he wore it in a great leather sling attached to a rope and pulley. And when he wanted to look you in the eye, he would have to pull on the rope like this and go just so he could look you in the eye. And he said, "Why have you come to me, boy?" And Jack says, "I've come to you, Friar Bacon, because I have no luck. Whenever I plough my fields, the plough strikes a rock and breaks. Whenever I sow my fields with seed, the crows swoop down and steal most of it. Whenever I cut my crops, I cut my hand. Whenever I try and speak to a beautiful young woman and say, 'Hi, my name's Jack,' it always comes out as bah, 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 bah. Why?" The old man pondered for a while, and that's very posh thinking. And then he said, "Jack, my boy, Jack, you are wrong. We are all lucky." He said, "Some of us are born lucky. They're the ones who talk posh and live in big houses. But others like you, Jack, well, you've simply mislaid your luck, lost it. Search for your luck, Jack, and hopefully you'll know it when you find it." Well, Jack thanked the old man, and then he asked the questions to the other three, for the young woman, for the oak tree, for the wolf. And when the old friar he'd pondered some more and answered the questions again, Jack thanked him, and he set off on the road home. Well, going backwards, he met the young woman first, didn't he? And she said, "Ah, Jack, you've returned to me. Did Wise Friar Bacon give you an answer to your question?" And Jack says he did. He says, "I've got to go in search of my luck. Hopefully I'll know it when I find it." And the young woman said, "Well, that's very wise, isn't it? But tell me, did he give you an answer for me?" And Jack says he did. "Friar Bacon says that you are sad because you are lonely. And all you need do is marry a handsome young man and all will be well." And the young woman went, Oh, Jack, you're a handsome young man. Why don't you marry me? Because I'm sure that's what you meant, didn't you?" You see, even in stories, people can get confused. Why don't you marry me, she said. And if you do, all that is mine will become all that's yours. What say you, Jack? But Jack shook his head and said, I'm sorry, I don't have time. Friar Bacon says I've got to go in search of my luck. I'm off. And Jack began to walk away. Well, very soon he arrived back at the clearing and the great oak tree, and the oak said, Jack, you've returned. Did wise Friar Bacon give you an answer to your question? And Jack says he did. He says I've got to go in search of my luck. Hopefully I'll know it when I find it. He truly is a wise and clever man, said the oak, but tell me this, did he give you an answer for me? And Jack says he did. Friar Bacon says that last winter, when all you trees were sleeping, thieves came and they buried a great chest of gold beneath your roots. Your roots have become entangled. That's why you are sick. If someone digs it up, all will be well. Hold, Jack, said the tree. Hold, Jack, says he. You're a lusty, strong lad. Why don't you dig up the gold? And because I'm a tree and have no need of coin, you can keep the lot to yourself. What say you, Jack? But Jack shook his head and said, sorry, I haven't got time. Friar Bacon says I've got to go in search of my luck. I'm off. And Jack, once more, he walked away. Well, finally, he returned to the wolf. And the wolf said, hello, boy, you come back then, have you? Did the old man give you an answer to your question? And Jack says he did. Friar Bacon says I've got to go in search of my luck. Hopefully I'll know it when I find it. Well, that's wise that is, said the wolf. That's clever that is. But tell me this, boy. Did he give you an answer for me? And Jack says he did. It's a bit of a strange one, though. Friar Bacon says, you are skinny. Your fur is falling out because you are hungry. And all you need do is eat the next silly fool who passes by. And there my story ends. For what more can I say? I hope you've enjoyed my stories. I hope you've enjoyed hearing them here at Leigh Folk Festival presents the Front Room Folk Festival. My name's Dave Tonge, and hopefully I'll see some of you on the road again. But before I go, if you have enjoyed my stories, don't forget the donate button. Don't forget those worthwhile charities that we're helping support this day. Thank you very much, and fare thee well.